most of you guys know me. My name is Zach. Zachary Robinson. I work with Erin at Agdinaoay, who I met 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And when I met her, she was Erin Young. But over the course of knowing her, she got a new last name. And I had the pleasure to meet Rob, her husband, who's also here and always supports her. So I'm here to just take our sponsors really quick and then give you guys a brief introduction to Erin. Just gave us a beautiful picture of the first project that she worked on here. So we have 3 event sponsors tonight. First one is WPA. It's an architecture and urban design firm here in downtown Norfolk. You guys are affiliated with WPA, just give a wave. You should be around. We also have an event sponsor at Assembly tonight. I'm not sure that they're necessarily represented here, but you guys saw Drew. We did the office tour. He was hard at work, probably still there. And we have AIA Hampton Roads. They have a table set up in the back, and Bernadette is representing them. If you guys have any questions, you can stop and talk to them. And this whole event is put on by VANOMA. If you guys are familiar with VANOMA, give a wave. So we want to thank everybody for making this event possible. We also have this line of sponsors from VANOMA. I think they're putting on all of the spotlight. So they've been integral in doing events like these and other ones. I think there's one of the first ones. So they've been traveling around Virginia doing great events like this to highlight that membership. And so Erin started out as an architect here, and has transitioned into being a project manager with us. She stepped into that role very seamlessly. As you guys have seen, she's incredibly creative. She's highly concerned with what our clients need. She's very humble too, so she won't say that a lot, but she's earned her hoops today, and most days she has like to call big group energy. And so she's able to get a lot of great work done. So we are very thankful to have Erin as our team member and to talk to us more tonight about her heritage, about her background, and how she's been able to do great work. So with that, I'll let Erin take it away.
Zach, oh my gosh. So for Zach, I came to him this morning my first time having a speaking event, and I was talking to some people opposite, and they're like, no, you shouldn't introduce yourself. So I frantically went to Zach's desk and I said, Zach, can you do an introduction for me? He said, sure. And that was so nice and beautiful, and he came up with that strong spot. So thanks so much. Thank you all for taking time out of your Thursday evening to come hear me talk about myself. Most challenging thing ever. If you tell me to talk about a project, like I'll nail it. Talk about myself, it's a struggle, but I'm gonna give it my best shot and kind of give you a hint of how, give you the story of kind of how where I am today and kind of where I want to kind of see things keep going. So I'm a pretty casual person, so I started off with these great 2 pictures. Allie in our office, the interior designer took of me in my PPE gear. So if you don't know me, I try to make work fun. It's our profession is a lot of hours, so I like to make the work fun, and so this presentation I hopefully will be the same. I've been at WPA 3.5 years, almost, or 3.5 years. Project architect, project manager, working with projects of all different sizes, as I'll go into. I am Filipino American. My mom's Filipino, my dad is American. And at the end of the event, there will be various foods influenced by Eastern traditions and some Filipino food. So stay around. I am 30. I graduated from Tech in 2015. So let me do the math quick. 7 going on. So that what it is? Years? I don't know, there's that. So I like to give a little bit of a roadmap for talks like these and kind of know where we are between now and the food and more alcohol. So I'm going to talk a little bit about me, my heritage, my personal journey that I think plays into a lot of my, personality and habits and thinking of what I want to be in the profession, my journey in the profession so far, and then right now at WPA, I kind of lead and help out with hiring, strategy, and culture. So I want to talk a little bit about that, what we've done so far, where I hope to kind of communicate what we do. Maybe you want to bring back to your work, and then answer questions at the end. So along those lines, I do want to kind of challenge or say, if where you are, if you're involved in leadership or hiring, have any say, I want to be able to say that non-traditional people are going to impact the profession, your company's culture way more than you. They're going to surprise you. They're going to bring kind of unexpected or values you may not naturally have in, if you're an American background. And that is wonderful. The more diversity you have, the stronger your firm's going to be. And then if you are from a non-traditional background, whether that is your religion, your race, your gender, embrace your differences and form how you develop as a professional. I think a lot of times when I found myself in this camp, you have these thoughts about how you need to be, how you need to act successful. And I actually found the more I embrace who I actually am as a person, the more success I have found in that career. So about me, I'm a mestiza, which means I am half Filipino and half American. This is my family right now. In the picture are my in-laws right here. Oops. My brother, my parents, me, my husband, nephews, sister-in-law, and her husband. This was taken at my parents' house, I think recently after Rob and I got engaged, and we celebrated our families come together. And so this is Rob, he's here, my husband. He's a full Filipino. He's an engineer at the Huntington Shipyard, and we have two cats, Julep and Boca. So I only have furry children. And he likes meow. So as an engineer and he as an architect, we always have fun. Dinner conversations. We really like to push each other, be supportive in our careers. And it's always fun when we kind of try to, what would you do in this situation? Because, he has aircraft carriers with billion-dollar budgets, many billions of dollars in that architecture, range, but it's never a billion. And so digging into that a little bit, this is my immediate family, a little bit of a graphic timeline. These are my parents when they got married. My dad was a lawyer stationed at Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. Met my mom in an optometry on Clark Air Force Base. She's an optometrist there. And it's as close, it's basically with love at first sight. They met a couple weeks later after hanging out. Dad convinced her to dump her boyfriend of like 5 years. And then a volcano eruption later, and they decided to get married. My mom was the only person in her family, she has 5 siblings, to come to the States. So she literally left all that she had and her professional background. When she came to the States, she had me 1 year later, so she wasn't able to go back to school to become an optometrist by the U.S. standards. So instead she became a licensed optician. 6 years later, my brother joined the show while we were stationed in Japan. And then that's probably our most recent, more fancy family picture. So that's us now. My brother's taller than me, of course. And they've been very supportive in all I've done. My dad was the person who take me to and from any type of extracurricular I do. And my mom was my biggest cheerleader and my biggest critic. Here's some photos of her growing up. She'd probably kill me if she knew I took these here, so please don't tell her or my mom. And so this is with her sister at the optometry and at different points. And I want to spend just a second to say, when my mom came to the States, you know, she felt like a fish out of water. She had no really family to support her. It was just my dad. And my mom was always very driven and a fighter. So she wanted my success. And if you can tell from these photos, she had quite a fashion sense. She didn't want to give anyone who knew she was foreign or reason to question her education, her ability to speak English. So she always put herself together. And that's something she very much instilled in me and all I do to do everything I can to put my best foot forward. So with that, kind of, what does it mean to be Filipino American? And because I'm always been Filipino American, I kind of struggled with that. So I asked ChatGPT. Dear ChatGPT, what does it mean to be Filipino to Americans? And so these traits popped up. And I gotta say, I looked at them for a while. I think they're pretty true for me. In my family, you know, and being Filipino, hospitality is number one. No matter where you are, what you're doing, make everyone feel welcome. Make sure everyone's fed. And just put a smile. Respect for family and strong work ethic at 2 and 3 is very fascinating to me. Because yeah, family first, family's number one. And then a strong work ethic, you know, do all that you can, what you do. I think that's something I really took with me growing up from both my parents. Resilience, adaptability, sense of humor. That one made me laugh. The first thing I thought of was at WPA when I'm stressed out on a deadline. If I'm not hyper focused, I'm like dancing to Britney Spears on the office speaker. You know, making the best of the situation. Strong faith, humility, and generosity. And I think those last two, years back, I don't take compliments well. I'm working on it. And then generosity, like, give what you have. And I think I've really tried to do that and keep doing that in the profession for people trying to come up and find their path if they're not from a more traditional background. I found these slides from, sorry, I have covered the graphics there. Yang Wu did a graphic exercise on kind of societal values between Western and Eastern cultures. And I thought it was a really good way to kind of outline things that have influenced me and that I straddle between to this day. So independent versus dependent lifestyles. American culture, by Eastern standards, is a very individualistic society. What you want to do, your problem, your consequences, go for it. In Filipino and a lot of other non-American cultures, you very much have to be front of mind of how are your decisions going to make your family look? Your family's involved in making those decisions. It's a little overwhelming, but it's a good practice early on growing up of empathy and communication. Elders' place in society. So, you know, I held and still hold my parents' opinion to a very high degree. Self-portrayal, that kind of plays into probably the humility part, and as well as self-perception. So there's more graphics. Some of them are very funny, or kind of looking at online. So my name's Yang Liu, YANGLIU. I might be butchering the pronunciation. So now that we kind of went over those building blocks, I'll go and close out what it was like growing up. Growing up, if I was not super studious. I was playing piano or doing taekwondo. I played piano since age 5. Taekwondo I started when I was 9. With piano, lots of life lessons there, lots of practice. A good example of like my mom's involvement in holding a high standard. I remember when I was practicing for judge performances and I had terrible stage fright and I made a mistake. She would make me start kidding. But I got so many good values from that, and I also learned because although I got good from just sheer practice playing piano, I was not that talented or brilliant. There were people that went into these competitions that were just brilliant, knocked my socks off. And I just learned that even if you're not the best at something, it's still worth doing. Taekwondo probably had the most impact on me. I'm a secondary black belt, and in Taekwondo, no matter what, it takes 2 months to go to the next belt level. Doesn't matter how fast you learn the forms, you gotta wait. So you learn dedication, perseverance, and even if you thought you mastered something, by the time I hit black belt, which was like 5 years later, I actually mastered it because that was like millions of front kicks, tons of getting my butt whooped. So even though you think you're a master, there is nothing that can just be true life experience and practice over and over again. In high school, the International Baccalaureate program I did had a really big impact on me. I loved learning. I loved the challenge of learning. I wanted to do big things in school. So I signed up for this program that really wanted to develop lifelong learners, not just from the American perspective, but the global perspective. So we learned about history, about, U.S. was not the good guy in the American Revolutionary War. They kind of were spoiled brats, things like that. So you learn the other side. You learn that history is written by the people that want to tell their story. And that had a really big impact on me to question things, ask for the other side. Not everything is what it seems. And one class in particular that had a big impact on me was theory of knowledge. How do you know what you know? I had no idea what that meant when I signed up for this program, but and in architecture, like you're playing a lot with emotions, people with different backgrounds. And so you learn in this kind of center quadrant here, the different things that play into what's called your knowledge. And so we had to kind of analyze that from the different subject matters, and we very often had to do like presentations and write-ups about, things that weren't even your opinion. So for example, I had to give an essay about a community in Africa that couldn't afford a real zoo, so they painted a donkey that looked like a zebra. As Americans, we have the privilege to say that's wrong. But if you're doing it for the children of a third world country that can't afford a zoo, is it still wrong? Why do they not think it's wrong? That sort of stuff. It was very interesting. I don't think I would have gotten that experience if I did anything else. And I think it plays a lot into kind of developing empathy in day-to-day life. So going to my college experience, I went to Virginia Tech in 2010. And for the sake of time, I decided not to go year by year, rather talk about what impacted me the most. And for me, that was the Chicago studio. When I was there my 4th year, it was the spring, and I think it was like the second of how many polar vortexes they used global warming. There were, I think, 17 of us. With Andrew Bolster, he's right here. He was previously an associate principal at SOM, and we were placed in 4 different studios, firms of different sizes, and we were given a project in Chicago along Cermak Road, which crosses between very different Chicago neighborhoods. And it was rigorous. It was tough. I never felt so challenged in my life. Every week we had to do a pecha kucha with new design ideas for our group projects, and we had to do another pecha kucha about an exercise that made us learn about the city of Chicago. And we were presenting to other professionals and city leaders in the area. And I grew a lot, and I also questioned myself a lot. I'm actually an introvert, and I think it was the most extroverted semester I had. But I loved and I learned a lot. Our project was about Red Moon Theater, so that's what some of these photos and that kind of pinup walls for. They were, I think we lucked out, it was like the best project. They're a theater company, or was, I don't think they're around anymore, that just built what they called contraptions to deploy theater experiences to different neighborhoods that didn't have a lot of like arts and entertainment. So it was a bunch of artists and theater people using their personal kind of build things in these warehouses. And so we worked in their warehouse and kind of developed how they could expand their space into another part of Cermak Road. And so that was, I think, the final touch. While Virginia Tech, because I worked really hard in high school and only did things that added to my resume, I told myself I made it in architecture, I made the tech, I'm going to do things that I want to do, not for my resume. And so for me, that meant joining that hip hop dance group. That's here and their team. And then I joined FASA, the Filipino American Student Association. So at the top, that's the dress for a performance for the traditional dance sneakling. And at the bottom are my other classmates in FASA, class of 2014, graduating 1 year later. And we called ourselves the Dobros. So we screen printed in the Merger Screen Printing Lab our bro names on the back of our shirts for field day. That's when we compete against other classes in different sports. You know, I can be competitive. And through school, mentoring kind of came naturally to me, whether it was a formal or an informal thing. This is Kevin Garcia, and Sarah Rosati. There's Kevin's in Northern Virginia, Kevin Garcia's in New York, and Sarah Rosati's in Northern Virginia as well. And I just found through Virginia Tech, I grew up because my culture, I grew up in such a structured environment. You know, like I'm going to practice this time, I'm going to do this here, to get my black belt, I do this, that. And Virginia Tech's architecture program is very unstructured, self-learning. So I felt like a fish out of water. I still had fun. I'm so glad I didn't know what I was signing up for, because I think I really needed the lack of structure. So I tried through mentoring to kind of help other people through the program. I figured things out to share it with other people. And when I gathered these photos together, I don't think I had the intention of mentoring like non-traditional people, but that's kind of where it started. So I thought that was kind of cool. So when I left Tech, I started full-time at RM Architects, and I actually interned there all my summer and winters. They did the project for one of the optometry my mom worked at on the design build project. And I was in the Tech's program, about to graduate from high school. My mom came home one day and said, hey, an architect came in and got their glasses fitted. Oh my gosh, Mom, can you give them my resume so I can shadow? The glasses were for the CEO. So luckily I got to shadow and intern. And it was kind of history from there. It was such a great experience. There's so many wonderful, nice people that made me feel welcome. I was placed in the K-12 special project studio at the time. And I think interning and then starting out of school, most of my experience was in K-12 schools. And although I enjoyed the lack of structure in school at Tech's architecture program, I think it was nice to kind of be trained in the profession in a structured environment once more. So with K-12 schools, especially like at RRM, that is what they're really known for. So there was a system and project managers and projects to refer from. So I learned really good habits from detailing, redlining, supportive teams. And it was good. So some of these projects pictured, top left is Princess Anne Middle School. That was, I think, the last K-12 project I worked on in Virginia Beach. I think this picture is also from Pam's. And then some of these are, I think, Fred Cherry Middle School, Beulah Elementary. So there was a mix of kind of from scratch design K-12 projects, and there were also what we did for prototype schools. So some regions in Virginia growing so fast that they really had to expedite getting these schools out because of families and communities coming together so quickly. So they would do prototype schools. They would change a couple elements of the region, but a lot of the design elements were the same, so we had to draw from scratch. And I think, although at the time that felt a little boring, that repetition, I learned how to detail pretty well. And then I also dug into some higher ed projects with Erin. Erin was a good mentor to me. Task order projects in particular, you know, those very specific projects with quick turnaround. You learn the beginning to end very quickly. So when I got licensed in 2018, I was kind of presented this really cool project, the Virginia Tech Foundation Seafood Cultural Research Extension Center. So bad, Jeremy. And it was almost like a congratulations on getting licensed. Like, let's have you take a stab at being a project architect on something. And I was so excited and so terrified. I was mostly working with the studio partner, Dan Hickok, and then I would run to Jeremy's desk anytime I had questions. Or Jeremy, I had a lot of questions. But it was such a fun project. Like, I learned how to work with, you know, universities, get buy-in, explain the kind of options, the process, costs. There was a great owner's rep, Jim Gassick. I think a lot of my client communication actually inspired from him because he did such a good job communicating to the face of the client, which wonder kind of why things were unpredictable, why we can't control every part of the process. So from listening to things like that and just staying observant, I learned a whole lot. And I closed out the 100% construction documents right before I transitioned to WPA. And so and there's a commercial cockpit like next week for it. So if you're in Hampton or connected to Hampton, I highly recommend checking it out. So November 2019 is when I joined WPA as a project architect and project manager. And this is our team today. We're 17 plus Ray. And I think I was number 13 to join at the time. So we've done some growing. And when talking to WPA were the founding principles that you see on this slide. I love the idea that the firm has such a strong message in their work and who they are, how they communicate themselves out. It was just really genuine to me. And it was something I was desperately looking for. And I got very attracted to it. And so the story here, I think Mel was presenting at Slover Library for about the firm, and then revealing that assembly was going to be a project, which didn't have the assembly name at the time. And I was in so much awe. And like, I didn't know about WPA at the time, that I had like one of those random streak of boldness where at the end of the presentation, I went up to Mel and I said, "Hi, I think we met. I'm Erin, and I just want to say this project is wonderful. I'm so excited. I live down the street, and I really hope I get to work for you one day." I've never liked that. So that presentation was pretty good. And I was expecting Mel to be like, "Oh, that's nice." She said, "Oh, email me sometime." A couple months later, I joined the group. So their studio, we're hard workers but relaxed, and I love it. This is our living room. This is where we have our studio meetings, talk about our successes, our failures. It's great. And so my first project, which a lot of you guys got to see the tour, was Grow. And coming from education spaces to Grow was such a big change, which is what I was looking for. But again, the whole thing of when you sign up for something different, you think you know what you're signing up for, but life always surprises you. Yeah, this was one of those projects. It was like 8,500 square feet rather than, a typical new construction K-12 school. Insane. But the amount of attention to the details on this project and a client that would really push the design and question everything was such a nice change and challenge. And then I worked with Sam was the project, was the project architect. We had to communicate with our engineers since we had such a thoughtful client about like why do we have to do certain things? Why the exact placement had to be just so. And I'd never done that before, and it was a perfect size project to learn those skills for the profession. So that's the desking and kitchen area. Canon Innovation Center. I don't think we've been able to share this project up to now, but I got wonderful permission from the client this week. Canon Innovation Center, they are in the Newport News area, and after I finished Grow, I hopped on this project. Although we know Canon for their cameras and printers, here in North America, they're doing so much more wonderful stuff with their imaging technology. So they had engineers spread out throughout their whole campus, which is a bunch of warehouses kind of combined together. So they want to create this, what they call the Innovation Center, which would bring all their different engineers together in a space where they can collaborate, test prototypes, work on projects, have presentations, be inspired day in and day out. And so what you see right here is the collision space. We call it the nest. It's a truncated hexagon with plywood panels, French clips on with colored solid surface jams, detailed wonderfully by John. This project was scary in another way. It was a big project. Bigger than these two. Engineers with a lot of different needs. I volunteered for it because I was like, oh, science. I did everything in tech space. I can do this. Yeah, science is scary. Lots of requirements, but it worked out wonderfully. And like, we designed and built a bridge going across a warehouse on a mezzanine. Like that still blows my mind. And modeling a truncated plywood. Like I think everything challenged me in this project. And this was during the pandemic for me. So working from home day in and day out. It was like the highest and lowest points for me. Struggled, I think a lot of people with burnout, never leaving your desk. But I also think, although it was hard, it brought out also the best in me. Like I was able to really just dig into what I found difficult, figure it out, get on like texting bases with the engineers. It was a really fascinating time that I don't know if I would have developed those relationships and really opened my mind to all the possibilities if it hadn't been during the pandemic. End of 2021, so that's after the Innovation Center finished. I joined WPA as one of the owners. We're, I think, 75% owner right now in the company, which is fabulous. And then the next project, which is actually wrapping up down the street that hopefully will get a actually photograph for everyone, is the TCC Visual Arts and Design Center at Harbor Heights. So it's where the downtown grocery store was, which has been in place so long. And although we all wanted a grocery store, the next best thing was really to let a program that was in Fort Smith, that could no longer be in Fort Smith, come to downtown, be reunited with a lot of the other TCC programs in downtown Norfolk. connect to the vibrancy of downtown and be in close proximity to the Chrysler Art Museum and Neon Arts District. So with this project, it was design build with SB Valor Construction and tight budget, and Allie worked with me on this one. And the challenge here was, how can we make this space as nice as possible for the very limited budget? And I don't think my pictures do it justice, but we really, I think, hit that out of the park. I thought Allie was crazy for like painting the ceilings blue, but yeah, that saved the project. And I think the lesson I learned in this project was, even on a limited budget, if you have a clear vision and goals for this one, a truly inspiring art feeling space, if you can communicate that to the client, to your team, to your engineers, and to the contractor, and remind them over and over again through every phase, even if you feel like a broken record, people are going to buy in and ask the right questions. So through construction, we have a very tight design schedule. You don't have time to figure out everything. So Ballard, and we worked with Carl Good. He knew what we were trying to do. He knew we worked with a tough design constraints. During construction, he'd call me, we'd walk down. We figure things out on the fly, knowing what goals you're trying to hit. And then now I'm working on this guy. And I realized I forgot to explain like the square footage of all my projects. Pro was like 8,500. Canon was 1,000 square feet, a 60,000 square foot warehouse. TCC, I think, is 48,000 square feet, 40,000 square feet. And then I signed up to do the NFK Building Science Building. Science again, I'm obviously not learning my lesson. It's like 130,000 square feet, $130 million project. I don't really remember exactly how the story went, but I'm working on this with Corey Wilcox in our office with a really great team and design partner, Smith Group. And it's been challenging and fun. It's really hard when a project is funded before the pandemic. The pandemic happens, construction budgets go crazy, and try to start again. And the state is, struggling to deal with a lot of budgets that don't match the budgets from before the pandemic, but that's okay. So this side of the building, which faces the Creek Road right here, this is the south side of the building. This is the greenhouse, has chemistry, biology, physics spaces. And then on the north side of the building, we have the planetarium right here. This is Lonnie Davis Street. So very big building, very big project. I think there's 50 to 60 stakeholders on the NSU side, and then I think between all our consultants and design partners is another 40 people. So my email inbox and meeting schedule got very colorful and big. But anywho, my favorite part of this project is the team. I sat in some Zoom meetings and realized I was on an engineering coordination call with Holton. That's incredible. And then when I looked around the team, again, zooming out, we have Asians, we have Black people, we have non-binary people. I'm loving how diverse this team is, and I really hope to see more projects like this. I think this is why the process is so enjoyable. We all ask different questions. We bring really good ideas forward. And I think it's really perfect for such an important project to an HBCU campus in our area. So I'm very excited to keep seeing this one going. We just submitted preliminary design Tuesday. So hopefully we're hitting construction sometime early next year. So that's my project story. So with being in hiring involvement at WPA, I want to share a little bit about that. This picture is me at my first WPA retreat. You can see just how excited I am to be there and nervous. It was 2 weeks after I started, and they're like, "You want to come with us to Charlottesville and like learn everything about our country and like spend a whole weekend with us?" I said, "Sure." Rob came too. I think he had a blast. And I put that picture there because, again, random act of boldness from me. We were asking where we want to see the company go, and I'm 2 weeks in, and 2 weeks of work, and I raised my hand. I said, I think you guys need an interior designer. We didn't have an interior designer at the point, and that's what led us to hiring Allie over back there. And so that picture kind of, I thought was appropriate for this slide. So I think since then, some things I've been a part of was forming the hiring committee at WPA, creating a formal hiring process. When I was brought on, I think it was just kind of Mel and Tom. They involved the whole studio, but there wasn't like a written formal process in place. And you know, with growth, there were 13 people at the time. They were kind of at the cusp of, you know, the CEO being able to keep track of what every type of hire will kind of do and is the right fit for a company. And then we create a more intentional and structured onboarding process to go with that. So the first couple weeks, first couple months, if you can start strong and really make someone feel at home, hospitality, at a company, like they will jump in, dive in, be invested, have a great first year. And then this last retreat we created, which was 2021, we created a WPA Diversity Advancement Internship and Scholarship. This past winter, we became a part of Virginia Tech's pilot program of the W internship, which we like to say winternship. I don't know if that's what they meant or not. And then now we're working on setting up a framework to hire students straight out of school. So our firm, very, you know, independent, fast-moving, quick pace, learn as you go. We haven't hired someone straight out of school, and it was because we were worried with providing the proper training and resources. A lot of us who came to WPA remember of actually starting at companies that had a good support structure, and I think it's very important that when we hire, we want to make sure we get the help we need in the company, but also do we have the appropriate structures, processes, systems in place to also support their development responsibly. So we're working on that right now. So here's our hiring steps. There's 8. Whenever someone applies, in a more formal way, I kind of say, I hope you're not in a rush. So our hiring committee, which is currently 3 people, let's mount up, review cover letters, resumes, portfolios that come in. Usually Mel will do a phone interview for people who are like, hey, this candidate seems interesting. And then after that, if they buy into the core principles of our company, if they didn't already know them, we invite them in for an in-person interview. And that's when we talk about, you know, resume, portfolio, what you want to do, your career. And we check references. We want everyone who comes to WPA to be an eventual owner. So we take references pretty seriously. I know a lot of people may not check on references. I know our industry is small, but when you think long term, it's very important to make sure you're talking to other people who worked with them before. How are they probably going to feature in your company? And then we invite them back again, talk about finances and salary. We open up our books to them, see if we're a good fit at that point. And if things are still going well, and we think things are going the right direction, we invite the person to meet our whole office. Overwhelming, but fun. And there's always snacks and drinks. And then at our next studio meeting, we kind of make a recommendation as a hiring committee, and the whole firm kind of says yes or no. But usually by that point, we already talk to each other, kind of have a good vibe, and then Mel and Beth take care of an offer letter. So onboarding, this is an example of kind of our agenda of what it could look like. And it is a full firm exercise for us. We want in the first 2 weeks for the new person to get to meet everyone in our firm, kind of learn a little bit about who's an expert at what. And the idea is if everyone's involved, then everyone's invested in this person's success. There's no, who's this person? Let me like observe from afar. Like, no, just get to know the person, share what you like to do, what your recent projects are. And then it goes really well. So here's some statistics. Candidates have a good onboarding experience are 82% more likely to stay. And then 12% of employees strongly agree that the company has a good onboarding process. So if you don't think you have a good onboarding process, highly recommend trying to figure out what that would look for you and your company. And I can answer more questions if you have specifics. So for our summer internship and scholarship program, this came from us getting just certified. So when we had our retreat after we got just certified, we all kind of came together and said, we want to bring back summer interns. And that's great and all, but when you're a small company, you can only kind of have one. And so we kind of came to the conclusion that if we're going to only have one summer intern every year, we might as well be very intentional about it. And so that's came the formulation of our diversity advancement internship and scholarship program. So the individuals who apply need to be from a non-traditional background in some type of sense. They need to be of a race that isn't white. They can have different gender preferences. That sort of thing. And it's our goal because a lot of our work at WPA is involved in the community to kind of build up and create a better community around us. So why don't we do that through our hiring and internship practices also better the field? So that's what led us to developing a program. Last summer was our first time. This is AIA Hill. She was graduating from Virginia Tech, and she's now at Harvard. And she was a real joy to have with, and we're excited to invite her back to share her first year at Harvard, hopefully sometime this summer at our sharing session. And then we accepted our second summer intern who will start in the June. So employees and retainage, we know they're such a valuable asset. How can we support, attract, and retain them, especially if we're trying to create a more diverse profession? And so I want to end my talk with kind of my experiences are being involved with hiring WPA so far. What are 5 ways to improve your hiring process and culture to attract and retain diverse talent? So number 1, practice awareness of your prejudices and preconceived notions that stop them in their tracks. And I'm not just talking the big stuff, even the small stuff. When someone's email comes through and wants to hire for a job, if you can't pronounce their name, don't listen. Open it. Look at their work. The more you can practice addressing it, the better you're going to get addressing what they are and stopping them. That way you can be more open to different types of candidates in the profession. And what this also made me think of when I was thinking about this topic was also, we have a profession that's getting more casually dressed. I think it's great. But when I think about my mom, who always puts her hair just right, wears a very professional outfit every day, there's still many people that aren't from here that are going to come into interviews dressed to the nines to impress you because they know they're not from here. And so don't think because we're now wearing jeans in the office that we can just dismiss them because they're not a right fit. That is them trying to impress you. So the more you can empathize with these people, the more you can not discount people and be more open-minded to have these people as a part of your practice. And then make a commitment to interview or make final hiring decisions only when there's a diverse applicant pool. I know this is hard because there isn't a big pipeline and no one's working on that. But when you try to plan, if you think, be aware of your numbers. Are you going to be needing to hire someone in the next several months? It's a long process. Architects are a little like unicorns right now. But if you plan appropriately, don't just interview the first person you got. Make sure you have a diverse pool to talk to, interview from. Make sure it's a very level playing field. And then give feedback and give feedback generously. For me, this means, you know, if candidates weren't selected for a position, if you think there's a reason why that isn't going to take you a long time to kind of explain it, give them feedback, help them on the next stop of their journey. And I also think ask for feedback. You may not, I think for a long time I was scared that I was going to give feedback people would want to hear, but I've learned to come to the point of that's okay, because we know what type of feedback we're looking for. You might as well give it if they thought they were the right fit for you, because then they either know why they weren't a good fit, or that they do have things that they need to work on if they want to be a good fit for us. And this is a nice graphic. I love these little graphics on Instagram. And so it says act of kindness. I think it means anything. If you can do this much effort, you never know when your impact is going to be so much more. And then hold yourself accountable with pay transparency and a documented system of how salaries are determined. With this one, I don't mean like WPA is fully pay transparent. I'm not saying everyone in fresh needs to get to that. But if you're trying to hire diverse talent or be a firm where diverse talent wants to stay, you have pay bands. When you list a position on your website for hiring, does that have a pay band? How does someone know in your company that they're on a level field with the people who are of a traditional background in the profession? The more you do this, the more people know where they stand at your firm. There aren't questioning looks behind each other. And the better you can feel that you're creating a very supportive, holistic practice. And for WPA, we do this by holding ourselves to the compensation reports. We graph where we are. And if we're not meeting the mark, we create a plan on how to get there so people are not where they should be. And then finally, have a genuine vision and value alignment that can be communicated to staff and new hires. And I thought this was a good one to end on, because when you're not from a traditional background, or if you're Gen Z, you want to land somewhere where you feel like where you work, where you spend most of your time, is in contribution towards something you believe in. And so if there's any place to start, I think from the 5, it's here. Because if you have this, everything else gets easier. And so that's it. Okay, I'm happy to answer questions.
Can someone open the doors, because like people can get
Yeah, we're gonna open the doors.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a question, you're welcome to start mingling, grab some food. I know it's 7:30, it's like dinner time, and drink. And I'm around if you don't have a question. And you have a question later while you're eating. That works.
I'll offer a comment.
Yeah.
The TCC project, my son graduated from the Portsmouth campus. I was in there a lot.
Yeah.
They had events and everything. And while there's sterility of that, which you want for what they do, kind of create that environment, it looks great. I haven't been in yet. I want to go in, but what I see there is great improvement over what they had.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be really good.
It's such a great improvement. So well done. Yeah.
Very.
Yeah, he graduated. It was the last graduating class at there.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of them were sad, about leaving their home,
Yeah.
but they've got a beautiful new home to be in. So yeah.
And Sally?
You said earlier that there came a point where you really started to embrace the things that made you different and unique. Is there a point in your career where you recall really starting to feel that way and to embrace that? Or what were some things that supported that place for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think this quick. I think probably around when I got licensed. I was really scared through the whole studying process, and I really didn't want to fail an exam. And I think through that process, and then I think through the Virginia Tech Foundation project, like that was my first project, and I quickly found out, and I think because we had such a good team and had a good support system, it's okay to say I don't know something. And I think by embracing that, I was also kind of able to embrace myself for who I am. So from consultants or clients kind of being okay with me not knowing something on the spot, I also kind of realized, like, when I say that, I have all these preconceived assumptions about the profession. Like, I have to act like I'm in charge of exactly what I'm doing, never admit I'm making a mistake. And so when I start feeling more authentic and okay saying those things, and people being really receptive to that, actually helping me solve problems rather than be all defensive, I was also able to embrace the more, a lot of the attributes I have of myself. Like Chicago Studio, I read the book Quiet because I felt very overwhelmed as an introvert in a program that felt like it was designed for extroverts, and I was questioning my place in the profession a little bit, although I was learning so much. So I think that entering the profession, getting my license, and working more closely on my first project kind of helped with that. All right. Well, no problem. Oh, yes, Ian.
I just want to say thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
I want to also say thank you for everybody coming back to support Erin and the Spotlight series. This is something that we've been doing mostly virtually. This is our first in-person Spotlight series. And it's really valuable. Which is to elevate the power of membership. Thank you all for coming.
And so, and then we have Kendall as our next spotlight in May, and that will be on Zoom during lunch. So feel free to join. Woo!